really know how to mute everybody, but we're live. Oh, here we go, mute.
Can we hear each other?
Well, if this is live and it'll be like, what the hell heck are these guys doing?
This is the pre-show, man.
Man, I tell you, Walt just cursed on the first episode.
No, what? Okay.
Edit it out in the post-show.
Whoa.
Okay, do we have a link to share this out?
We do. It just popped up in my feed.
Oh, did it? Okay.
Okay, go ahead and put it because I don't see one.
I don't need to see it either.
There we go. I can see it.
Alrighty then, so we are starting in just a few minutes for anybody that is joining us.
Walt, can you throw that into Teams, please?
It's on the chat.
It's in the chat in StreamYard.
Yeah, I'm not on LinkedIn on that device yet. I haven't gotten that far.
For those of you tuning in, this is the pre-show where we string all the pieces together so that things work. Just in case you're wondering why we're not really doing the show yet.
We're still learning. We had episode 0 last week.
We already have 11 people. So if you want to, we're talking about utilities. You can start typing in questions if you have them in the stream. All right, so we are live. Let's get this thing started. So hey there, this is nap time, and to quote WebMD, don't lean on caffeine. A power nap can actually boost your memory, creativity, and energy level. And my name is Ray Villalobos, and I'm here with my fellow LinkedIn authors, Sharon Bennett, Walt Richer, Morten Rand Hendrickson, and I again. NAP stands for Not a Podcast, a live stream focused on technology. This is our official episode 1. So if you joined a little earlier, we kind of start the podcast a few minutes earlier just to make sure that we're online and we can actually promote it. It's not, your web was not broken. Today's topic is actually on utilities that we love and we can't live without. Everyone has a few utilities that if other people only knew about, it would change their lives, or at least that's what we'd like to think. So I'm going to start it off with Mr. Morten Rand Hendrickson, who is not given his name. However, I just did. So Morten, what's going on with you? And tell me about your first utility that you can't live without. Morten?
Security.
He is frozen.
All right. So it looks like Mr. Morten is frozen. So let's pack it up. Let's go to Walt and see what you have going on, Walt.
So one of my first tools that I install in Windows, I am a Windows user, so I'm on Windows 10. So one of the first tools that I install is it's from Void Tools, and it's called Everything, as in search everything. Mm-hmm. And like most operating systems, Windows has a search feature built in, but it's focused primarily on documents and the contents of documents. So I can go to my documents folder, do a search, find my Word docs or whatever, and then also search within those. But as a programmer, a lot of times I'm not interested in the contents. I'm just interested in finding certain file types like DLLs or specific executables. And the next thing about Void Tools is it's a small utility. It's extremely fast. It basically indexes all your drives and lets you quickly search and then filter by, let's say, I only want to look at executables, or I only want to look at video files, or I only want to look at image files. And it also allows you to index network drives. So I can point it to other machines on my network, and then I have to install some extra functionality, but it allows me to search the other machines on my network too. So one of the first tools I install.
What exactly, how exactly do you launch this thing? And installation is pretty easy then?
It's easy. You just go to Void Tools, download the installer, and you'll have it installed in 30 seconds. And usually the initial indexing on the machine takes about 60 seconds. It's extremely fast.
So this is way better than, I know that whenever I use the Windows machine, it feels like the search is always really difficult to figure out. Like I can't seem to find things.
Right.
So this looks like something that just makes it a ton easier, right?
Yes.
Oh, super. All right, looks like we have Morton back on. So let's see if he's got something going on for us. How's it going there, Morton? No, you're good.
Okay. Security is a really important thing online. As you may have noticed, whenever a new service pops up, it soon gets hacked and all the private data gets distributed on the internet. One of the easy and quick ways of securing your own account from anything is activating two-factor authentication, if that is a service that's provided by whatever service you're using. Most tools now have two-factor authentication. The problem is they all require different kinds of tools to make the two-factor authentication happen. My recommended tool is one called Authy. Authy is a catch-all tool for the two-factor authentication functionality. So you may have heard of Google Authenticator and other types of tools like Bitwarden and Zero and everything else. Authy supports all of these different tools. And all it's doing is you register your Authy, you register whatever service you have with Authy using the app, usually taking a picture of a QR code on the screen. And then a code is generated on your phone, and then you pass the code to the service. And it works exactly the same way as Google Authenticator or all these other tools, with one substantive difference. Authy is a service that you log into, meaning if you lose your phone or you have to reset it or something happens, you can log in and regain access to all the services. So Authy allows you to essentially sync the authorization across devices. You can have it on multiple devices and sync your account across them, which of course introduces a bit of a risk vector.
Yeah, I know that.
Sorry, yes?
I was gonna say, I know that I was just trying to talk my wife into installing what I use, which is 1Password.
Yep.
And she's always terrified of that, thinking like, what happens? I'm going to lose the password to 1Password, or I'm going to misplace this thing. So the thing I get you're saying, it kind of thinks everything, right?
There is a risk in everything, but if you activate 2FA on all your things, right? So your email, your hosting account, your Facebook, your Twitter, your Instagram, all the things that you use, and then you have to reset your phone, you instantly have no access to any of it, and you have to revert back to something far less secure, which is the SMS authentication, which is prone to SMS spoofing or SIM spoofing and all that stuff. If you have Authy, you can reactivate Authy on your new device, and then you have to put in a passcode and everything to get into it, and then you can reactivate, right? So you still have the risk of someone might be able to hack into your Authy account. However, it's a risk mitigation factor, because if you then stack this, so you have a password manager and you use the password manager to manage your Authy account, then you're adding so many levels to gaining access to your accounts that it becomes too much work for people to try to do it. And that's really the point of this, is it's not about making your stuff absolutely secure. It's about making your stuff secure enough that the people who are trying to get into your accounts just give up. It's too much work, so they move on to less secure accounts. And Authy just is a catch-all for all of these 2FA systems. So you don't have to have 18 different apps. You just have one.
Well, that seems pretty cool. I know that I started switching everything that I have to 2FA. Like every single account that I have, I just try to switch to 2FA because it is, maybe not perfectly secure, but it's a little more secure than not having anything. So that's great. All right, so next up, we'll turn it over to Sharon, who's going to talk about her utility. Hey, Sharon, is that Toronto behind you?
It's a picture of it, yes.
It's on your window.
The magic of technology, yes.
Yeah, I don't have a condo downtown.
Very nice.
I can't afford that.
A condo in the lake.
Or on the island.
It's a small ship. Small ship.
Okay,
Sweet.
so
So what's the yeah.
Okay, my utility that I love is Azure Mask. I live and work in Azure in the portal all day, every day. And one of the things that I do is I record in the portal. By activating the little add-in, you can just activate it from the, I guess, Chrome store or whatever. And what it'll do is it will mask out your subscription IDs, your keys, your email addresses, everything that you don't want public, it masks for you. If you're recording for public consumption, then it's already taken care of. And you don't have to go back and put in the little boxes and hide everything and mask it out after the fact. It's already done. It's my go-to. I love it.
That'd be awesome for live streaming of anything that has to do with Azure. Where
Exactly.
You can't go back and retroactively edit out things.
Exactly.
Yeah, so this looks like a GitHub repo. Go ahead, sorry.
I was going to say that's a browser extension.
Yes, it is. Chrome.
Nice.
Wow, that's awesome. I know that, we have the advantage of when we forget to blur something out, we have like editors when we record things that go in there and blur everything out for us. But I can, definitely, I'm super nervous, and I actually caught people. It's great when you catch somebody typing in a password, like at a conference or a demo. So definitely is something that will automate that process for you. So I guess I am next, and my favorite tool that I can't live without is something called it's a clipboard manager, and it's called CopyPaste. The thing that I like about it is that, especially, everybody knows what clipboard is. The thing is that as you copy something else into your clipboard, that whatever was in that clipboard tends to go nowhere. And so if you forget sometimes to copy something, then you really end up with a problem where you lost lots of work that perhaps you had copied. So the cool thing about CopyPaste is that it stores everything, and you can tell it how many things you want it to store. So you can store hundreds of things in your clipboard, and also you could also tag things as well as search things. So if you, for example, have, I use it primarily for code. And a lot of times I need a piece of code that I know that I copied into my clipboard yesterday. And it's really hard, even when you just have a normal clipboard manager, to find something that has a little bit of, it's a little bit back in your history. I think this tool really has, first of all, rewired the way that I think about how I work, because I no longer think of the copy tool as the thing that just copies the last thing that I did. I always, sometimes I'll definitely do like a copy, and then I know that I'm going to need to copy another piece. That's always annoying, where you have to make 2 copies, but you know that the next copy is going to delete the previous copy. So I no longer, it almost makes, I don't know, it makes you think of everything in 4 dimensions. You don't think of just the 2 copies that you're doing. You think of multiple copies. And then the addition of being able to tag things so that you can star a copy that you did if it's something that you're going to be using often. And then you can also search for anything that you've done over the whole history of stuff that you have. It also syncs to multiple platforms. So they make, I think, a copy of this for the iPad so that you can sync it to your iPad, which is kind of strange. I've never really used that, but I know that I have multiple machines. And sometimes I want to make sure that if I'm copying in this machine, when I go to my recording machine or my laptop or whatever, then I can actually look up what I had copied on a previous machine. So it's super useful and definitely something that it changed my life and not something that I could live without. All right, so next up, we have Morten again with actually a utility that I know well. And I actually didn't think that this utility was working anymore, Morten.
Which one is this?
This is Pocket.
Oh yeah, Pocket. If I have to like explain why I use Pocket first.
Yeah.
So I have severe dyslexia, which means reading is a tedious affair for me. It's like we have a running joke in my house that I'll start reading a book and then my wife will be like, okay, so you'll be able to tell me what this book is about in 6 months because it takes me that long to finish it. And one of the many challenges with having dyslexia is a lot of the information that is about what's happening in the world happens online and it's published constantly. And everyone keeps sharing articles all the time that you need to read. Not, both in non-work things and work things, right? So if you want to stay on top of what's happening in the world, you have to read all this stuff. And reading it just takes an enormous amount of time. So I was looking for tools that could help me read things faster. And Pocket, which is actually like a link storage system. So you add your little bookmarklet somewhere on your browser or you add it to your phone. And then anytime you find something online that you want to save for later, you can just say, save it for later, and then tag it with whatever tag you want. And then you can recall it. But what Pocket also does is on your phone, it has this really fancy tool, which is text-to-speech. So you can just set an article and then say text-to-speech, and then it'll start reading the article back to you. And not only does it do that, but it does it in many different accents. So that means if you have an English article and and you're in the United States, then you can have an American accent read it back. If you're in Britain, and a British accent. If you're in India and you're reading an Indian article, then you can have it read back with an Indian accent. If you're in Norway and you're reading a Norwegian article, you can have it read back in a Norwegian accent. Of course, it's a great amount of fun because you can do things like get it to read back an English article with a Norwegian accent, which sounds insane. But it's a very advanced tool that's really simple to use. It's on the phone, and it allows me to do things like say, I'll tag 10 articles I want to read today. And then when I'm working out, I'll just set it to play, and it'll just play through all the articles from top to bottom, and then just skip to the next one and play through them. So I can consume the internet in audio format, in the format I want and at the speed I want without having to actually read it. And it's also great for just storing things you find online because you can tag them yourself. And it's an endless archive. So you can then go and search for individual words in an article or the tags you're using and then re-tag them and store them. So it's just a good tool to sort and organize. But for me, the text-to-speech part is the essential component.
Wow, that does sound cool. I know that I used to have this on my phone and desktop because I know you can go between the two, right, Martin?
Yeah, it's on everything and it syncs across because you have an account, right? So let's see. I'll just show you a thing here. So here's Microsoft researchers. No, I'll get it to read it out so you can hear it.
From a dozen tech companies, published by VentureBeat on March 11,
Wow.
2020.
While speaking on a panel recently, Landing AI founder and Google Brain co-founder Andrew Ng described a moment when he read the OECD's AI ethics principles.
So did it change voices like in the middle of that?
Yeah, it's a proper text-to-speech thing, right? So it'll change voices depending on what the setup is. So I can change the language here to something else. I'm not going to do it because it'll be very annoying to listen to, but it does what text-to-speech is supposed to do, which is if there's a fundamental change in the text, then there's a fundamental change in the voice. So
that's
like
pretty
if you
cool.
have a quote, it sounds different from if you have just regular body text. And when there's headings, the headings have a different voice, or the article headings have a different voice from the actual reading. So it's really neat.
I did notice that it seemed to be really fast, so you can control, I guess, you can control that speed, right?
You can make it really slow if you want to, but it gets
And can you
extremely annoying.
say that if you're going on a long walk or something, can you queue articles up in there so you just listen to them in sequence?
They automatically queue. So
Oh, wow.
Just chronologically based on how you tag them, it'll just keep reading. And then once it's read an article, it'll go into an archive folder. So it's still there, but you have to actively like go find it again. So you can just like, but I'm out jogging, I'll just burn through whatever I tagged over the last week, and then it just reads all of it back.
Well, I am definitely checking this one out again because I know that I'm always looking for stuff to sort of consume on my walk, and I know that there's so many things that I bookmark that I never have a chance to actually read. So that is really cool. I know Walt has another tool that I use all the time. So what do you have for us, Walt?
Well, it's interesting when I would have put Pocket in one of my top utilities too, and then I saw Morten had already was going to talk about that, so I was looking at what other tools do I work with. But Sim, just going back to Pocket for a second, I use it all the time, and I find it useful when I'm reading articles or I'm on Twitter and I see something interesting. A lot of times I know I want to write an article about it or think about it later, and I just don't have time at the moment. So it allows me to move it to another time frame. I may not look at it for another week, but at least I feel good about moving on to the next topic. And similar to that, there's a tool called Feedly. So Feedly is a website. It also has a browser extension, and it works as it basically, if you like to follow blogs or RSS feeds, it's another way of doing that. And it's a Chrome extension. Now, I'll have to say that I switched over to a Microsoft Edge this year, and I'm a long-time Chrome user, 8 years. And the nice thing about the new Edge is that it supports all the Chrome extensions, so I can still install those. So, and I get notifications like in the morning when I open my computer, Feedly will pop up a bunch of notifications on my Windows machine saying, here's the 6 feeds you're interested in today. Have you used it, Ray? Did you say you also work with it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that everybody knows what a feed is anymore. So
right.
The cool thing is that a lot of websites, I want to say like most, but I'm not exactly sure that I could say most. A lot of them will publish a lot of their content as what's called an RSS feed, which means that it is something that you can subscribe to separately. So if you like to consume articles from like your local newspaper, they will a lot of times publish RSS feeds, and sometimes they're even subdivided by channel. So if you're really into sports or a specific team, then you can usually, just because they have a website, a lot of times they'll have a feed of specifically that content. And so what this allows you to do is subscribe to that stream of content, and then you can kind of look at it organized. And the nice thing about this tool is that it lets you divide it up into different categories. So a lot of times, like I have a feed for news, but then I have another feed for local news. And then I have different feeds, like a feed for things. And you can, bookmark them. You can take a look at all your content, and it just gives you a way of deciding how you're going to consume content, and also the ability to look at streams of content that are very categorized.
And I would like to, it's really useful for like companies that want to announce products. Like we have a lynda.com feed that publishes, every time we publish a new course, it goes into our RSS feed. So if you've got that in Feedly, as throughout the day, it'll pop up and say, here's a new course that was just published. And we publish so many a day. It can be,
maybe not recommend that particularly, because that's just endless learning FOMO. Like,
yeah.
Oh my God, here's the 2,000 courses released today that I don't have time to watch.
But I think that's a good point. Like if you're from a developer's perspective, that's a good way of getting information out to the audience that wants to see it in a timely manner. As things happen, the feed can pump out the information about that new thing.
Yeah, I know, Morten, that you're our WordPress specialist. So I believe that every WordPress site out there comes by default with a feed, right?
Yeah, you have to. I guess you could turn it off, but it wouldn't be very easy. All the major CMSs put out RSS feeds automatically, so you just go to the site/RSS and then you get the feed. And a lot of
that's a good tip. You can kind of just add that. You can look also a lot if you want to dig for the feed. You can find it in the code, or sometimes you could just type in /RSS feed, or
yeah. There's a whole universe of RSS tools out there, and with different kinds of solutions and everything. But yeah, it's a way for people to access it. Old people mostly. Like us.
I
But
fit
hey,
that
you know,
category.
everything that's old's coming back. And I think that like if people knew about the power of kind of organizing your code, this is similar to the tool that you were using, Morton, but it's really powerful to just be able to sort of filter the consumption of your content, and so that you don't have to see everything, and then bookmarking it when you want to come back to it. I wonder if there's a way to sending things to Pocket from Feedly, or somehow, you know, getting
Pocket integrates with your browsers. You can send anything to it.
Super. All right, so next up, we have something that I don't believe I can pronounce. So this is up to Sharon to tell us about this tool called Magoosh Vocab.
We'll go with that. I'm not sure. It's another extension that I like to use in Chrome. And what it does is it pops up every time you open a new browser window, or sorry, a tab, it will pop up with a new word, and it will provide you with the word. You can have it pronounced for you, and it'll give you an example of how to use that word. It's been fun because you get to learn all these new words. And I'm finding as I've gotten away from reading books, my vocabulary has definitely dropped over the last couple of years, and it's a way to kind of bounce it back up. So that's my pick for the kind of the fun and lighthearted add-in.
Yeah, you know, you created, when we were talking about the show, Sharon created like this list of stuff for us to talk about. And so she categorized it into fun and productivity. And I had no idea she did that. So my pick for this section is totally ridiculous.
Your fun utility is, Ray?
Oh, well, actually, it's next. So my fun utility is something called Kaleidoscope. And this is one of these utilities that at first glance, it doesn't do what I use it for. So if you look at this tool, it's actually for spotting differences in images and highlighting I don't even know why anybody would want to do that. But the alternative thing that it does is it allows you to compare documents. And this is where it's super fun and useful for me. I'm always writing code. And one of the things that's really important for me is being able to tell the difference between pieces of code, especially when I'm working with GitHub. I want to check one branch against another one. And so I run, you know, Git has this option of creating what's called a diff tool. So you can check against another branch, say the differences between what you have currently written and the original, or what you've currently written, and also say another branch, so you can know I need to make sure that I, you know, don't forget to write the code like this. So this thing has really just changed the way that I write code and changed the way that I record and prepare for my courses. So this is super fun for me. I don't think it's as fun as Sharon's, because my mother used to literally read the dictionary for fun. And she always used to tell me, not something I did. So I was always very impressed. And I think that my teachers, since English is not a second language, I mean, is a second language for me, my teachers would be really happy if I add that extension. So we're actually getting some suggestions, I think, from the stream.
Yeah, we're starting to get a list of utilities coming in. I just saw one for Felix said that he loves uBlock Origin for ad blocking. And cool. There's, what else? Remember the Milk?
Oh, yeah, Remember the Milk.
Yeah,
that's a fantastic little to-do, right? But then we could do like a whole episode on to-dos and how we actually like get things done, because I think that everybody's is different. It might be
Never
something
actually
to do.
Remember to put stuff in my to-do lists. I need a
so yeah, it is. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, Felix Chow also suggested the Adobe Chrome extension for converting a web page to PDF.
Oh yeah,
that's a good idea.
That's cool. So we'll gather all these up and we will put them in somewhere.
I think we should. I think we should do another one of these episodes in the future. There's so many cool utilities out there that are just essential.
Yeah, definitely. And I got to find something fun next time, as opposed to like, I don't think people are going to be really excited about my Kaleidoscope idea unless
I don't know.
They're developers.
That was pretty cool. I mean,
I want to look at it. I'm interested
I got to do a demo for you guys. It's like ridiculous. It's amazing.
Because the diff thing with images, you're like, I don't understand why you would want to do that. It's obvious if you're doing any kind of image conversion or compression, you want to see how badly the compression destroyed your image. That's what you would use it for.
Yeah, I never thought of that.
And it also says,
it's funny because the
different-
whole site mentions none of what I use it for. Like, it's not for code, it's for comparing documents and pictures.
It says compare text files, which is that. But it also says compare folders on your Mac or iPad. And a folder comparison is really useful if you're like trying to copy things over from one folder to the other and you're not sure if that actually happened, or if you're trying to match two folders or two projects to see if they're the same and they might have thousands of files in them. Then having a comparison tool that can take two folders and do a side-by-side comparison is very useful.
Well, I'm sure glad somebody else finds it exciting.
Like for $69.
Yeah, but it's really useful to me. I know that you could do this.
That is $69 more than I'm willing to pay for an app.
All right. Well, it's that time to give people back so they can maybe actually take a regular nap instead of listening to the nap show. We'll be back next week. Thanks for watching. And that will be episode 2. We would love to get your feedback on topics that you'd like to see. So drop us a comment in the feed. And we'll talk to you guys again next week. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.